and this is why I enjoy in a live scenario, Q&A,
Yep.
because there are times I don't know what I know. In other words, during my conversations with Vissaeus and Moronae, Vissaeus has always been telepathic. Moronae was both. He would speak telepathically at the same time he would use his vocal cords because that's all he knew. And for a while there, I would just focus on the vocal cords, and I would miss the fact that he was also talking in my head. And my brain has all this download from both of them. And sometimes I don't even know that I know something unless the question comes up. And then, like, boom, there's the answer. The information comes from somewhere in the back of my head, and it's just like I get all these pictures and language of the answer, and I surprise myself because I know it. I know it's hard to explain and it sounds kooky, but it really is what it is. For almost 50 years I've engaged in telepathic communication. I think that's mostly what it is. The mind is just a sponge, and its ability to retain information is remarkable. It's beyond anything we can imagine. It's got to be one of the biggest hard drives that we couldn't even create, because it not only stores data, but it stores it holographically, and it merges it all together. And even though we don't understand it, our soul does, and it's almost like it imprints the soul with the data, or the soul has the data already, and it imprints the physical body. And it's just there. It's just there.
I want to just give you a brief background on how this all started for me. I grew up, for the most part, in Elk Grove Village, Illinois, and my grandparents had a cabin up in Woodstock, Michigan, which is in northern Michigan. And we were up there in August of 1964, and I experienced missing time. We had gone out to play into the fields, and I laid down in the tall grass, and I can remember throwing chestnuts out of the way to create a place for myself to lay. And when I fell asleep, and when I woke up, it was almost going on 9 o'clock. And I remember getting up and running back to the picnic area where the family was, and there was a police dog, a Michigan State police car there, and my folks and cousins, because it was kind of a family thing because everybody goes back to school. And I got the tar licked out of me for disappearing, and I told them where I had been, and they didn't believe me, so I took them back to where I was with the flashlights, and sure enough, there was my body imprint, and they swore they had been all through that area looking for me. It wasn't until age 14 that I actually understood what had happened then. I went to bed. It was just a normal night. It was in October. When I woke up, and there were two men looking down at me, and they were human beings, except they have no hair, and their skin is light blue, or at least Moronae, the very large one, his skin is light blue. Vissaeus is the elderly one, and I'll give you a brief background on them. Has turned white because of his age, but they are blue-skinned. They say that they are our cousins, and that we actually have some of their genetics inside of us. They originally came from Lyra, as all human life did in our galaxy. Human life does exist in other galaxies as well. I was taken out of bed many times. I was given information, I was given physicals, I was given brain scans, I was shown, they put a little cap on my head and they showed me who I was in past lives and my direct connection to them and my connection to the Earth. And then there were no more contacts after age 14. There was one at 16, but it was a physical. I was not awakened. It wasn't until 1985 that the contacts started again.
The two beings that come to see me and that I have gone with are two Andromedans, a very tall one who's 7.5 feet tall, almost 8 feet. He's 450 pounds, and I mean, he's just like that. I was very self-conscious. It's a male thing. Um, his name is Moronae. And the shorter one, as they get older, their skin pales, they turn to white. Their average lifespan is, in our linear time, would be 2007 years. So, of course, you see a lot of changes in that amount of time. You know, I mean, hanging out here for 60 years is just a weekend, you know. And the other one, his name is Vissaeus. And Vissaeus, in our linear time, is 4,300 years old. He is considered a sage in his world. And he will be crossing over, in other words, he will be moving out of their physicality soon. And in Andromeda, when somebody makes the crossover, moves out of their physicality, it's a celebration.
Now, one of your contacts is a 4-foot, 11-inch light blue skinned being called Vissaeus.
That's correct.
Please describe his or her personality in detail.
Vissaeus, well, he's very serious. He's very benevolent. He's considered a sage in his world. He's an incredible healer. He has perspectives on things that are just far beyond anyone that I know. He's very direct. He's very humble. He's very soft. He's very direct. And when he moves into a room, like when I've walked with him or walked with the others, when we walk into rooms or different areas of motherships and the ships, energy changes. People, of course, they're very in touch with energy themselves. They instantly turn and they acknowledge him and they bow. I guess he would be considered a Nishwish or a Yahweh, an admiral, or I don't want to use the word God.
An elder.
An elder, you know, of tremendous of wisdom and insight.
And Moronae, he's a 7.5 snow white skin, hairless being. Also,
he's light blue as well.
Oh, light blue. I'm sorry.
He's light blue.
Can you describe his or her? Oh, he. Can you describe his personality then in detail?
He's serious, but he also has a really good sense of humor. He can snap me out of my depressions very quickly, and he has just a different perspective of looking at things. He also tends to be part of their exploratory team. In other words, you know, when there are times when they need to defend themselves or they're confronted with something, he takes on a military type of role. He's very, very fatherly, big brother. He's also one that, you know, he shows more emotion. He'll give you a hug or put his arm around you, he's just really, really wonderful in that sense. He's more human in that sense. He's not as sterile sometimes as Vissaeus would appear to be. It's not that they're not loving, but you know, sometimes Moronae is a lot more animated. You know, and I can relate more to him, and I think he can relate more to the emotions that we experience here, the tremendous extremes that we experience. I think he's a little bit more in touch with that, you know, than maybe sometimes Vissaeus appears.
My contact started when I was 8 years old. I was on a family picnic in Woodstock, Michigan, which is in the upper northern peninsula. I did not remember the contact until I was at the age of 14. I knew, and my parents knew, that something had happened and the other folks. We went out to play hide-and-go-seek, and the grass was very tall. It was in August. It was like the second or third week of August, just before we all went back to school. And I went to lay down in the tall grass and just to hide, okay? Because we have one of our little cousins. She was a female. You know, we made her in, so she had to go around and find us. And I remember picking up the chestnuts and throwing them because they were chestnuts. And I made a place for me to lay down. Well, I fell asleep. When I woke up, it was night. It was close to 9 o'clock. Now in August, you know, the sun sets late. So I got up and I walked back. I'm approximately 250, maybe 300 yards from the picnic area. There was a police car there, there was a dog in the back, or state police, I think it was, state trooper, because the guy had the big round hat with funny thing on the top. When I got back, at first they were all glad to see me, and then my mother walloped me. She gave me a spanking. Where have you been? I says, well, I was over there. No, you weren't. We were all looking for you. So I took them back with flashlights to where I was, and sure enough, there was my imprint in the grass, and they swore up and down that they had been all through there, and I wasn't there. It wasn't until age 14 that I realized what had happened. And I was asleep. We were living in Elk Grove Village, Illinois. And I was asleep, and I woke up, and I'm lying on a table, flat on my back, and I'm looking up at this light. And there's a very tall, big guy standing next to me, and a short, tiny one. The tiny one had white skin, bald head, looked sort of oriental, but he wasn't, just very old. And the other guy, the big tall one, was light blue skinned, no hair, but built like a Greek god, like this. I had instantaneous recognition of those two guys, two men. The tall one is Moronae. He's 2,300 years old in our time. He's from Andromeda. The short one was Vissaeus. Now they don't use names like we use names, but those are names that they gave me so that I could call them to accommodate me. That's how I relate to them. They use symbols. Vissaeus is 4,300 years old. Actually, he's over it, but that's his approximate age. They're incredible. They're absolutely incredible. They're human beings just like us. They evolved, they were part of the Lyran lineage of the human race. So it started at age 14. I was taken on the ship. I was given a physical that recorded my brain waves, my biorhythms, so that I could be communicated or contacted no matter where I was in our galaxy, or wherever they were in the galaxy. I'm always stuck here. They put me on a brain scanner device. The room that I was in was completely round.
This was when you were 8 or 14?
Age 14.
Okay.
There was a table in the middle, that's all that was there. Now, Moronae had like a little clicker, you know, like a cable box clicker, you know, when you want to change the channel. It was a device similar to that. He would just push a button, and literally on the walls, all of these meters and telemeters and gauges would literally manifest out of nowhere, out of an absolute wall like this. Suddenly there were gauges and knobs recording everything about my physical body, everything. They put a little cap on my head. It was like a yarmulke, except the top of it was cut out. They put it on my head, and he pointed and he said, look, telepathically. And I looked, and another scanner, like a television, appeared on the wall, and it literally, I started seeing pictures, like clips from movies, just going by. Boom, 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 different scenes. And I kept recognizing the main character in these scenes. It was me. It was my entire reincarnational history on the earth, flashing before me. Not the whole life, but scenes of it, of who I was. When this was done, they gave me a little cup, and it was like water. And he said, drink it. So I drank it, and they turned around and they watched. On a meter here, they could see it go all the way down. It looked like water, tasted like water, but on a monitor it was blue. And you could see it go all the way down into my organs. And every time I go on board, they give me a physical. And it's because of the environment we live in. Now, when this was done, I got up off the table. All the monitors literally disappeared again. Now there's nothing there but wall.